The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, welcome to Learning to Dance in the Rain. I'm Shelby Wagner, host of this show, and I'm very happy that you're here with us today. We bring you discussions about subjects that might not be as happy as that music that I like to have played before my show, because we need some peppy stuff to help us get out of a sad time sometimes. Today, I'm very happy to introduce to you Reace, Starr, and she's the owner of and yoga instructor for Starr's Restorative Yoga. But she was recently authored a book and published her first book called I'm Here, which proclaims about a little girl who was not allowed to be. Wow, what a title. First-person narrative of abuse, trauma, disassociation, and healing, published through Trafford Published. And she suffered much child abuse as a child and had multiple sclerosis in her life. She shares 2 of her 27 years of experience in therapy, in which she documented a journal. I'm not going to go much farther with that because I want Reace out here and to tell us about herself. How are you doing, Reace? Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. You look very nice, comfortable there on your show. Here's a picture of your book. I'm Here, a little girl who was not allowed to be. Can you share about your background and what inspired you to write this story?
It was a journal, and I still write in a journal. I'd met Dr. Bradshaw at the university, and I just, off the top of my head, asked him if he'd like to read my journal, what I'd been writing, and he said he'd be honored. And so I gave him the copy of my journal with angst, but I knew he was trustworthy. And then he started giving me feedback, and I asked him if I could use that for a forward. And out of his mouth came, as long as you let me clean it up. So Dr. Bradshaw wrote the forward for my book, and I would write and get in touch with my deep pain, and I'd write it because I was told that it would help at the women's shelter. Mm-hmm. If you write the words down and put your heart and soul into it, you're literally putting it out of your body into the paper. Mm-hmm. And it ended up getting published. And then Dr. Bradshaw made a course for his master's students, and he made my book recommended reading. Oh. And I thought, wow. And I go in still to the university at the start of the class, and I meet the students, and I'm there to answer questions that they might have. These are students studying their master's in counseling psychology.
Oh, that's a good.
So they'll be future therapists. And they get to meet a survivor.
Right. That sounds like it sounds like a very good book for those students to study, mm-hmm. to become helpful in their future life. So you got a degree from which university was it?
I have a diploma in community social services, and I got that from Douglas College. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and would you like to tell us where Douglas College is? Is it in
Oh, sorry. It's in New Westminster, British Columbia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Isn't it interesting? I'm in Michigan.
You're in the United States. I'm in Canada.
It's very, thanks to technology, we can meet people around the world as if they're in our living rooms, right? Very nice, very nice to meet you. Okay, well, let's see what here. What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about abuse, whether it's children or whether it's adults and, spouses? Is there any misconceptions about this, or would you like to start with what it really is before I'll let you?
Abuse comes in many ways. People have this notion that, it was a law in England. As long as the whip wasn't thicker than your finger, you were permitted to whip your wife. And that's carried through at some intellectual level for some people. And some cultures still do that. And I like to think that we're becoming more educated and more open-minded, more intelligent. But sexual abuse is rampant in this world. So is physical. It's you just have to watch and see the little children, and they won't hold their head up. And I went into, I have 3 separate certifications in teaching yogas. And I went into a school and taught for 3 kindergarten classes. And the teachers started asking questions. How can they help? I said, just be there and listen to them. You'll hear the different words they share. And if you think it's something, you report that. And then the child will get help. But women, we have transition houses that are continually full. I developed second stage, getting my diploma for women and children. And they're everywhere now. And I feel proud of myself that I actually did that out of my healing. I channeled all my anger into making something better. People have this notion that we make it out to be a bigger deal than what it really is. We women do. That's so untrue.
I guess I've heard of that when like daughters are being sexually well, I've lost the word, by their stepfathers or their fathers or whatever, and the girls will mention that to their mother, and she thinks that the daughter's lying. It can't be true, right? So we probably see that quite a bit. How do we deal with something like that? If well, how, let's go back to you wrote to me about your husband. I don't know if I can read all of that. Is it all right if I read that? You said what was it, that he had you thrown down on the floor or on the ground, and then he made some statements to you. Would you like to? What was it? That was when you decided that you'd had enough and that you were leaving. Wasn't that? Do you remember that? I can't find it.
Yes, I do.
Would you
September
like to?
12th. September 12th, 1983.
All right. Would you like to talk about that incident or what?
My husband had, I'd forgotten something. I'd taken my sons to church to Cubs And then I would go there. I was on the board of directors, and my husband didn't like that because, according to him, I was having sex with all the scout leaders because I really was having too much of a good time
Oh,
helping
my.
out there. But I came home, I'd forgotten something, and he was pretty stoned. He was on alcohol, and he'd been smoking pot. I don't know what else he was on, but I was going out to get my car, and he pulled something out of the hood so it wouldn't start, and then he pushed me down on the ground, and he straddled on top of me and started smashing my head into the earth, screaming, "Don't you know how much I love you, you fucking bitch?" Smash, smash, smash. It just, I
Wow.
started kind of losing it. I ended up with a concussion. But and this is love, he's calling it.
Yeah.
In my mind, this is not love, not real love.
How can
And
that's certainly not showing you love when you
yeah,
I was surprised to see that in the same sentence.
I
You
left
said,
that night, and I was done. Sometimes it takes us a while to get that he's not going to change. Things won't ever change. We have to change here and believe that we have value. And that's sometimes after being raised in a culture, in an environment where women had no worth. We just were there to work and bring in money, and it doesn't matter what culture. But women are changing that everywhere now. And I love to see these changes.
so this was not the first time that he had attacked you.
No, I'd left him 3 times before that and gone back.
And why did you go back?
Because he said that he promised. He kept promising. My mom even said to me, he's a good provider.
Oh dear.
He was a boss in a company that he worked for. So he was a good provider. But I also provided. I ran a licensed daycare. I brought in money to the house.
Was he okay with that, or was he someone who wanted their wife to be the typical wife to stay at home and take care
Oh,
of
I
them?
had to do that and do that.
Well, right. But there are some that don't
Yes.
want wives to work too. So
Yeah, he was okay because I was bringing in money. I didn't make, well, maybe a quarter of what he brought in,
sure.
which was good for his ego.
Hmm.
But women didn't make that kind of money back then.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, recent
they are
reports,
making more now.
they still, well, they do, but they don't make as much as the man usually. That's what
Yes.
I'm still reading, and that isn't fair because for lots of reasons that we won't get into.
Mhm. That's a
um,
whole other,
that's another subject, right?
yeah.
So, and they seem to be, you loved him, and he seemed to be honest, and he's really going to change. So you went back, and he did it again when
Mm.
something happened that he didn't agree with or thought was happening there. Um, what kind of advice would you give someone who's in that situation, but is still thinking, well, he will change? Um, uh, do you suggest that they go back like the first time and give him a second chance? Or do you think that he's not going I mean, it's not going to happen. It's going to be changed. I mean, he's not going to change over time.
Unless he goes to counseling and learns how to be different himself, no, he won't change. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but the promises are really empty unless he goes and does his own personal work and makes the internal changes. Just a flippant, I'll change, I'll never do it again, I promise, it'll be different. I went to I went to a first stage transition house when I first started out, and I actually thought all the husbands went to the same school because we all said the same things that were told to us, and they were all the same.
Uh-huh.
And I wondered, well, how did that husband know this husband and this one?
Yeah, right.
They all said the same thing. Yeah. We learned how to laugh, but it was a laughter which was a release of emotional anxieties and things like that. Now I can laugh through joy.
All right. So suppose that I was being abused like this, and I had decided I was going to leave. What should I do? What's my first step?
Well, you're going to want to have some help.
Okay.
And call a transition house. They're all over the world now. They take women and children. First stage does, and now they have second stage transition housing that you can go to after the 30 days. But yes, call a transition house and they'll come and get you.
Oh, so that will help if he happens to come home while you're
If you
packed.
don't have a vehicle, you don't need to have one. They will come and get you.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the women's movement it's really, we're out here to support each other now. We don't have to be in the shadows.
I'm taking notes.
I can see
that. Okay. So you mentioned 30 days. So does that mean I can stay in that transition house, stage one, for 30 days? And then what? I have to decide to go somewhere else? Or
they can, with the ministry, because they're hooked up to the Ministry of Human Resources.
Okay.
If you're coming towards the end and you have nowhere to go and you're not ready to go out on your own, they can make exceptions.
Okay.
That's been done. And I presided over, after I started my healing, climb up the mountain, dig your fingernails in sometimes to climb. But yeah, we don't all move at the same speed. And I learned that. Like, I always thought, God, I gotta be slow about everything. But I take my time to bring it in deep inside of me. Not everybody, we all have different levels. Some of us are deeper to start with. And some of us, after 30 days, aren't ready. And that needs to be valued as well. So the ministry could be talked to, and that could be extended. And perhaps that particular person is ready for second stage. She doesn't want to just go out in the world and get a full-time job. And some women are ready. They're professional already.
Mm.
Some of us, I wasn't when I started out. So we're not all the same, and that all has to be considered.
Let's see. So, okay. So the transition house, the men are not allowed to know where you are, or
No,
no? Okay,
no.
that's all secret. That was one
Yeah.
thing I watched. I like to watch movies, and I've seen several movies where there was abuse with between the husband, and it surprised me when they would tell them they're leaving. And I thought, well, if you're having such a hard time, why tell them? Get yourself ready and get out of there. So, not knowing much about the, this kind of thing, I would say, first of all, you need to pack your bag or have things ready that you can leave when he's not around, right? And without knowing that you're doing it. Not very wise to tell him, I would think. So let's see, what do you want to talk about your childhood abuse a bit?
When I was little, I was totally dissociative, and I had no memory, period. I just was focused on, my father had a need to make sure I went to Sunday school every Sunday. I'd get perfect attendance. He was part of the church. He would be, I forget what they call them. He had a good standing in the church. And as an adult and going through this process and getting my diploma in college and the intellect I developed, I came to the realization that a lot of abusers are hiding in churches. And that's what my father was doing.
Mm-hmm.
When I was little, I just had no recollection. When I first, after my babies were born, I had 2 sons with my husband. I kept hemorrhaging, bleeding all the time. So I went to a specialist, and he asked me how many abortions I'd had, how many miscarriages I'd had, D&Cs. And I looked at him like he was a nutcase, because I hadn't had any of those things.
Uh-huh.
But that's not what my body said. My body was telling these surgeons. So they had to remove my uterus. I was 27 years old because I didn't stop bleeding.
Oh, wow.
And that's the damage. And the results that came back from when they sent everything off to the clinics, it was abnormally thick with scar tissue. That was the results that my uterus showed. So what the doctors were saying was true, but I had no recollection. So the deeper I started going and doing my own work inside of myself, I started to remember things. And that's when I started writing in journals. Because some of the things I was remembering were off this planet. Just horrible. I wouldn't wish them on any human being. They're inhumane.
Hmm.
There are so many different groups and cults on this planet, and they're really not healthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, you said something about your survivor of
Yes,
satanic ritual
yes,
abuse.
yes. When they would go into a graveyard, and they would have these. They'd all be high, and I never figured that out until I started having some education, some conscious awareness. Their eyes were always so dilated. That's because they were high on drugs.
Hmm.
They would be chanting, and part of their ritual, I remember being put in a coffin. I didn't want to get in, and because there were spiders in it, I think I included that in my journal.
Oh, wow.
And they lowered the coffin into the earth. And as I'm writing in my journal, my adults arrived, and my little girl is in the coffin. And I'm talking as an adult as I'm writing in my journals, telling these people that they're nuts, they're crazy. There's a little girl in there. And no wonder my mind wasn't here. How could a child's mind stay here in a conscious way? It wasn't possible. So I stopped beating myself up when I found out that this wasn't about me, this was about them. They were the perpetrator. I was the victim. We have to be ready to own that too. In all of our abuses, that we were a victim. But the world now, it never talks about ritual abuse, satanic ritual abuse. And if it was going on then, why wouldn't it be going on now? Those people don't just disappear. The world's not ready for acknowledgement in those areas, I guess. Someday they will be. What Putin did, that's pretty, I mean, bombing, killing little children. What did they do? See, I call that ritual abuse.
Well, definitely, I would too.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
it's a crime.
Oh, there's so many. There's so
Mhm.
many. You know, I'm a victim of the romance scams and cyber currency. I did some investing. Got talked into that, and I lost a lot of money. You know, and when I went, this all happened about 5 years ago after my husband died, and we're sorry, Miss Wagner. We're sorry you lost your money, but you'll never get it back, and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, why? It says fraud. Scamming
Mhm.
is fraud, and fraud is illegal. What do you mean you can't do anything about it? And lucky for today, even when this happened to me in 17, I saw it was 100, well, in 18, I saw it was reported that $145 million had been, you know, given. That's what the law says. You gave the money to them, you know, but we didn't know them. We were under kind of a hypnotic thing. You know, we thought we were in love and they loved us and all of
Mhm.
we got married. So, okay, so anyway, now I'm finding that there are groups out there now that are pushing on it. But now, do you know how much was lost last year? to scammers. It was $10.5 billion. That's a long way from 17 when I saw 145 million. Why can't they do something about this? Why are people losing their life savings and more? That's just another kind of thing. We're victims. You have the children, you have grown women who are being abused by the man that they love and supposed to protect them. That's part of being a man, is protecting your family, isn't it? That's what we're taught, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is, because you even have fraud when you probably in the law enforcements, you can't weed out the good from the bad. Can you?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but I don't know what the solution is. But our solution right now, well, my reason for this show is to overcome, which you have, deal with it with resilience. Learn to move on. You did, right? I did. I wrote a book about it, and now I'm doing a podcast and interviewing guests. So we're trying to spread the word about. So we're doing our part, but a lot more people need to help us and do their part also. I have a friend that I met 3 years ago, and like you, she had two little girls, and her husband would get drunk, come home drunk, and accuse her probably of having sex with, I don't know exactly the details, but she said the night he threw me down on the concrete floor in the garage and was beating me, and my little girls opened the door and saw him doing this, was when he finally decided, enough, this is not going to happen again, and she left him. Thank God she got away from him.
Yeah.
So and she built her own life. It takes courage, right? Scared to death. Yeah. But people that are living, well, I've been learning since I started the show about narcissism and how people want their own way so bad, and they do everything to manipulate you into thinking you're the bad when you don't give them what they want, or do something exactly the way they did. So, can you tell us a little about your husband? Did he accept it? Did he try to find you, or
He knew where it was. I actually, I sold my half of the equity to his girlfriend, because she moved in the day I left, the same day.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so he had another family, so to speak. But yeah.
And how long did she get beat? Did she get beat up too?
I don't think so.
No,
because I didn't go far, but I just kept walking forward. I didn't turn around, look backwards. I was going to college, and 7 years later, people would tease me. Now you're addicted to education. And that was okay. I like that. Yeah. I wasn't addicted to my husband anymore. And that was gone. Yeah. And I just kept moving forward. He was angry because I left him and managed to stay away from him. I didn't need him anymore. And he just started another life with her. Yeah.
And you don't know whether the violence continued and
He's no
that's
longer here,
okay.
but I understand she is,
Mm,
and she's on her own now.
hmm.
Yeah, we all got older.
Yeah.
But yeah, he passed away before he turned 65.
Hmm.
He would be 78 now, I guess.
So how do we you mentioned the transition house. Is there any other support group that we could give to our listeners that might need something? Or is that the main one is called the transition house?
Counselors, if you're financially okay, you could go back and forth for day counseling at a transition house. I highly recommend that you meet up with other women of like that are
Mhm.
undergoing counseling in groups, because it's so good to hear other women talk about experiences you've had.
Oh yes.
So then you don't feel like I'm not the only one,
Right. Right.
because we get kind of isolated in the abuse. We're blamed. It's all our fault. Yeah. And if I hadn't have said this, that wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have had to hit me so hard. When was I ever going to learn? Oh, those words were said many times
Mm.
out of his mouth to me.
How about you made me do this?
Oh, God, yes.
Well, yeah, that's one.
That was another one.
Wow.
You make me do this to you. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for how a society that we can become proactive in preventing abuse and supporting those who are victims of it?
Supporting those what?
The victims like you. Is there more that we as a community could do to help women or men who are trying to, are living through this and trying to find out what I should do or where I should go? Um, you recommend the transition house.
Mhm.
And how about, well, I don't know.
I highly recommend, don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to tell somebody. Say something, because that other person might be having a similar experience, and then it make them safe and feel safe enough to open their mouth, and it just spirals. That don't be afraid to open your mouth. You've been told to keep your mouth shut. Those are wrong words to tell us.
Mhm.
Open your mouth
Right, right,
and share.
right.
Yeah.
And when you can do journals, just like you did, that was what I did too. Um, well, I was going through some of those things with the scams and so on.
Mm.
Do you? What are the psychological effects of being abused as a child that are ever, when you grow up? Is there a connection? Did you find a man who was going to beat you because you had this experience as a child, or do you think
For
that
me,
was it?
yes,
Yes.
yes. Typical. It's like the wheel that keeps turning around, and until we get off that wheel, until we wake up and come to the realization that, gosh, she's a lot like my dad, or even if you've not married your dad on the cycle, you're on that cycle. And I don't deserve this. Nobody deserves it.
Right. And
Yeah.
And each
You
person.
could go to your another place to go would be, an afterthought would be a church. There's usually some kind people in a church. Not all perpetrators are hiding in the church. There are some nice people there too, because I met a lot of them.
So you continue to go to church?
Pardon me?
You continued to go to church, even though your dad had kind of forced you into going? Is that something?
I liked my Sunday school teacher. I really liked her. She had nothing to do with, and that was one gift I took out of that.
Okay.
There was some really good people I met there. Yeah. So yes, I have, and I've gone to different ones to just see the differences, meet different people.
Okay, very good. I'm church organist. So I have been since I was 17.
Okay.
Did you have any indication when you were dating this man that you married that he might be an abuser, or that maybe you should not marry him? Did you have any when you think back?
I didn't think that second thought. That would be too intelligent back then. But when I witnessed his mom came home drunk, she was an alcoholic, and he picked her up and threw her into the wall. She smacked her head, crash, and then back down onto the bed. And I didn't like what I witnessed. That was a feeling I had inside. And I kept my mouth shut because it bothered me. But it didn't bother me enough to stop the path I was headed on. But I never forgot it. I can still see that in here. How horrible.
That's what you were saying about being on a cycle.
Yes.
You were used to that when you were young?
I don't recall seeing my father do that to my mom.
No, but to you? But how about to you? The fact that your father was...
But I don't remember it though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I remember once when my little brother I had fixed the TV. We had an old fashioned, remember the old TVs with the rabbit ears? I had fixed it so my dad could watch this particular show. And then my little brother, 10 years younger than me, came in and changed what I fixed. And I said out loud, if he'd just leave it alone, making reference to my little brother, my dad thought I'd said, if you just leave it alone. He grabbed me at that period and threw me over his knee. I was in a skirt, pulled up my skirt, bare ass. And my mom heard him and came running in from the kitchen and said, you promised you'd never touch her again. And that's all the recollection in that area I have about my father hitting me. Yeah. Dissociation is powerful. They call it PTSD. Dissociative identity disorder is the new phraseology.
Wow. Well, there was another thing I was thinking. So tell the listeners again the name of your book and where they can get it, and if you want them to contact you, what is your contact?
It's available online. You just Google the title. It's available at Trinity Western University, but that's in British Columbia, Canada. Yeah.
You have a website, don't you?
No,
Oh, you don't?
no, I don't. I don't know how to do those things.
I thought I typed in your name and it might have come up from Google. So you're not on Amazon.com or any of the
Yes,
online. Oh,
you
you
can
are.
get my book through them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds good. And how about an email address? Do you want anybody to contact you at all if they or
Feedback can be given through the publisher.
okay, and that is
They're Trafford.
TRAFFORD.
Yeah, Trafford Publishing.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. And I really thank you for being here today. I enjoyed talking to you, listening.
Thank
And
you.
I learned a whole lot. A little girl who was not allowed to be. So you
By
when you
Reace.
by Reace. Yeah, I
Mhm.
like that. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
We were surrounded by monsters, it says on the back of the book.
Yes, that's what Dr. Bradshaw said. And Gabor Mate, he's a medical doctor. He recommends people read my book.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. So I'm going to get it and read it.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm very
Thank you,
happy.
Shelby.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I'm going to thank the audience for being here with us today. And I hope that I can tell that you learned as much about this subject as I did. And if you're going through something similar that Reese did, I pray that you will seek help with that transition house or with the church. Tell a friend, talk to somebody, and if they don't listen, then talk to somebody else. The
Yes.
more you talk about it, the
Mhm.
better you're going to feel. If you hold it all inside, wow. And I ask you to go read my books or buy my books, Learning to Dance in the Rain, Surviving Grief, Internet Dating and Romance Scams, third version. And then the scams can tell you 150 different scams that are out there. And I just recently published a book called what is it? Two Left Feet. Well, dance anyway. It's just up in the last couple of weeks, and the other one is Finding Love Again. Seniors to
That would be good.
internet dating or to online dating. So yeah, I've got that up on ebook, and I've got to get the print in print. But yeah, I'm really happy. So I got 4 books now, and I appreciate anybody going out and taking a look at them and perhaps connecting with me through that. And my website is shelbyjwagner.com and learningtodanceinthegrape.com. I have 2. That one has all of the episodes. I think this is episode 66, and I'm real happy with that. But I want to remind everybody that life is not about waiting for that storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain and start enjoying your life. And I'll see you next week at Tuesdays I'll see you tomorrow actually at noon Eastern time. Bye now. We're on W4CY.